This is a very special lesson. This concept trips students up every year. I actually have a meme for this concept, and I still have students that even after I've taught it still don't get the meme. I'm hoping this year's going to be different, but we'll see. We already started on your quiz. There was a problem towards the bottom of the first page. And the problem said something like, I think it was x minus 7 and it was squared. And so a lot of you guys, you're like, oh, x squared. That's x squared, x, squared. And then, negative 7 squared. So that's plus 49. The problem is that's not correct. When you square something, you're multiplying something times itself. And so the reason for that is that you're going to have this situation. And when you have this situation, some of you still did it this way, but still thought of it the way I just did it, which was wrong. If you think this through and write it completely out, x times x is x squared. Minus 7 times x is negative 7x. That would be the insides. The outsides would be negative 7x. And then negative 7 times negative 7 is plus 49. Notice the middle two terms do not cancel each other. You actually end up with negative 14x. You have a middle term. And a lot of you ended up without a middle term because you were thinking of this without thinking of it like this. So, this situation is called the difference of squares, which is the last situation. Notice what does the last situation, actually all three of them do have the same situation. These are called the difference in squares. How are these these three sets of binomials different from this, which is what was on the quiz, or even this? How are these that I just drew different from the binomials here on the page? What do you notice happens in each one of these cases? Well, if you noticed that one's positive and one's negative, pat yourself on the back. Okay? Because of that, that creates the disappearance of a middle term. Now, let's see how that works. So, let's start off. We're going to do distribute the x to the x, and you get x squared. We distribute the x to the negative 4, we get minus 4x. We do the inside, get 4 times x, we get plus 4x. See it happening? And then we do the last two terms, and we get negative 16. Once we combine like terms, what do we end up with? Well, these will create a zero pair, so we end up with x squared minus 16. When we see x squared minus 16, we need to always think of this original polynomial. Okay? We're going to think about x plus 4, x minus 4. Can't seem to get it to erase. There we go. We need to think about the original polynomial. There's got to be one term that's a positive term and one that's a minus term. Okay? 1 plus, 1 minus. So that the middle term zero pairs out. All right, well, let's see how it works on the next one. We have 5m times 5m. You have 25m squared plus 5m minus 5m minus 1. You end up with 25m squared minus 1. Let's take a look at the next one. 2a times 2a is 4a squared plus 6ab. Remember, we always write it in alphabetical order. Minus 6ab minus 9b squared. Okay, these two terms zero each other out. Remember, we don't say cancel. We cancel checks, we cancel trips, but we zero out our terms. All right, so the resulting product is called a difference of squares. Now, let's look at the notes. When you are taking steps to factor a difference of squares, first, make sure you have an actual difference of squares. Don't just assume. You got to make sure there must be a subtraction sign and that you could square root both terms. Well, why not a plus sign? Well, a plus sign, you're always going to get a middle term. Okay? So let's take a look at if I had that x plus 7. Well, actually, no, this is the one where it says we're looking at the squares. So if it was x, yes, plus 7 squared, then we get x squared plus 7x plus 7x plus 49. Or we get x squared plus 14x plus 49. We're not going to get a difference of squares. We're going to get a middle term. Okay? So you got to make sure you're working with something here with a negative sign. All right? This would equal a minus b and an a plus b. That gets us a squared minus b squared. All right. If you're still confused, hang in there. Remember, the first time you learn something, it's new information. Your brain is supposed to grind a bit. If it's not grinding, it's not learning. All right. So we're going to look at this. There's got a negative sign there. I'm going to go a minus 2, a plus 2, and let's see how that goes. I get a squared. I get a minus 2a. I get a plus 2a, and I get a minus 4. My two terms in the middle zero out. I'm left with a squared minus 4. Therefore, my factors are here. All right, let's try the next one. I'm going to put it, remember when we did our diamonds, right? We're going to get an n plus and an n minus. What two terms will zero each other out, but when multiplied, add to 64? Well, 8. 8 times 8 is 64. You could check it. N squared plus 8n minus 8n minus 64. The middle two terms, they zero out. N squared equals, or sorry, n squared minus 64. So here are the two factors. All right, I'm going to let you go on ahead, and I'm going to quickly draw your attention, though, to number 5. Remember, we said we have to have a minus sign. Otherwise, there's no way to get the middle term to drop out. So this would simply be called prime. All right, good luck.